think that's back now. Some annoying connection issues. Hopefully that will stay running. So yesterday was trying to get the sectors to work, and a bit later on in the evening I managed to make some changes that got it mostly working. The most significant change that I made was to bring in the slab, effectively the child actor, and the components within it into the actual sector actor or pawn. And the primary reason for doing this meant that the data didn't have to replicate, or it didn't have to replicate kind of effectively two actors, the primary pawn and the child actor, which seemed to make the replication of the kind of sector display more reliable. Yesterday it seemed like I could get the kind of surroundings, the kind of coastal part of it working correctly, but the actual slab itself didn't seem to turn up half the time. So some annoying issues, but joining it all together into one actor seems to resolve them. And really, because it's just one function that renders what I've now called render slab, that sorts out all the images, and then one variable that I'd have to pass into the pawn anyway, it doesn't actually seem to make a great deal of difference whether the slab and the pawn are separate. It would only be a problem if in the future I wanted to somehow separate the actual slab, but since in the way that this is working, the sector is visually represented by the slab image, it does actually make some sense to have it all in one place instead of trying to separate it over two different actors. So if we run it, we can see some awkward glitching with the camera, but I kind of understand that. I'm just not going to address it just yet. And then we actually focus on the appropriate sector. So we can change the start position in our New World instance to be 10 instead of 6, and we'll actually start on the bottom section instead. So that's kind of working as expected. Now the next thing to do for the beginning of play is to get the castles in there. Now we aren't actually creating the other play either at this point. Has to be said that I don't actually know where to start to try and get a AI player involved. I wonder if there's even a blueprint cast for it. Yeah, so that would be what we'd want. But I think we can work on that bit later. So when the game starts, we are doing all within the level at the moment. We're spawning all the sectors in the spawn sector code, and once all the sectors have been spawned, we do some quick checks to whether we're a dedicated server or have authority, and that means that the run dedicated server and the non-run dedicated server modes work the same, which basically drops down to here, where we get all the sectors, all the sector actors, we loop over them, we get the appropriate location and compare that with the start location, and then possess the appropriate pawn. Now, when we actually start the game at the very beginning, we actually want to immediately start with a castle. And we therefore need a way in the sector to build a castle. And this is obviously work that we've done in the other prototypes. Now, before I had the building or the construction component that I made that kind of separated all that off, But again, I'm not really seeing the benefit of trying to kind of separate the code in that way, at least not to start with. So we are going to have a function which basically allows us to build a building or spawn a building on the sector. And we're going to have that take a player controller, I think. I'll pick the right one. So we're going for this MLM player controller 2. That's what we're working on at the moment. And we also want a building. Now, the buildings that I created before, the building blueprints, I think in general were what I was after. So they are in our old buildings. We started with this T building class, has all the images. And I think for the most part I'm going to reuse these. Again, I'll copy them just so that I keep the old ones and work on some kind of fresh versions of them. But the primary reason is that the kind of basic construct of determining the right image is all set and done. So there's not really any benefit to redoing all of that I can see. I think that was working fairly well. So we do need to specify what building it is, not by class, by. So we'll have to make the classes first. So we'll take the building and move that into the game, or copy that into the game. And we'll work on just the castle again, so we'll copy that one. But what I will do is take out anything that's not related or what may not be what we want. So I think the construction script is fine because that's just creating our array of sprite components. We'll leave that one in, so I think that one makes sense. Don't think this one actually gets ran, but I'll leave that one in for now. We'll keep the reference to the sector, although obviously it's going to be our new sector class. And I think that's it for the building itself for now. And the castle, so we'll rename this to be our new MLM building. Keeping that naming convention. So the castle, we've got all of the images for the actual castle. We'll keep the flag component because again that seemed to work quite fairly well. So the event graph. Yeah, I think I'll keep that. I think the setting of the flag works okay. Obviously it's based on the colour of the player controller, which doesn't exist. So we can't actually do that work, but we'll leave the basic concept in place for later. We don't want to do anything with the population, and we won't do anything with our tasks right now, which means we'll also get rid of the additional components. I think we can get rid of the function as well. So the only thing we want to keep is things related to the flag, which Okay. So because we are using the colour, and our player controller currently only stores the character, or in fact it doesn't even store the character, does it, at this point? That's what we want to do. So it's in the game mode. Player joined. What we can do here is cast the player controller. So player controller needs two variables. It needs the character that the player is playing as, again, we can't just call it character, and the colour. The colour's probably based off the character anyway, so either we may be able to just functionalise the getting of that, but the character is instance editable, but it's not exposed on spawn because we don't actually spawn the player character. So we need a macro for that. Maybe we can... Ooh, too far. Again. Have that to pure, actually. Doesn't really seem to serve any purpose for not having it as pure. No, it just saves having to do it over and over and over again. So from that we can get the character. And set it. So at the moment the flag on the player controller, sorry, the flag on the castle, wherever that's gone, flag on the castle is populated from a map of name to flag flipboard, and the name is actually the colour rather than the character name. I think maybe we can make it the character name for all it matters. Hopefully the owner will be a player controller. tab with a character that we can use to get the flag. So we have to set that up, but hopefully that works easy enough. And that means in the player controller we don't need to worry about the colour. Okay, don't know why it complained to start with, but just rejoined it up. That's good. So it's actually within the game blueprint that we want to claim that castle, because that's basically what's doing, or handling the player being joined. Well, it's actually within the level blueprint. So the level blueprint possesses the appropriate pawn after it's found that start location. But if it's found that start location, we want to spawn. Actually, no, we don't want to spawn. We want to tell that pawn that sector here. Add that function. Not yet. So I thought that'd be the case we actually want. Now we need that location. I thought we needed that location. Oh no, it's just the possessing that we're not doing, that's why it's not joining up. So it's in the sector where we want to create that building. I thought I did start it. I must have started it in the wrong blueprint, perhaps. Nonetheless, so the sector has the buildings. Sector's in control of building the buildings and that kind of stuff. I know I added construct building somewhere, I just don't know where it was. Oh, I put it in the level. It's not the level which wants that. No, I've had it as a return value. suppose actually the sector shouldn't need to be told for what player the building's being built for, but it does need to be told what building's being built. So the problem with passing in the class, I think I tried to do that before, but that we can't do any logic based on that class. And we need to know which building it is so we can place it in the right place. What do we do for the last one? Yeah, we just had those references. So we'll keep a reference to the castle in the sector. So where we want to build it actually comes from the metadata. It's not necessarily complete, but it's there. So I don't think any of the sectors actually say where it should go, but I can fix that up as we move forward with it. So we want the owner of this sector to be the owner of our new castle. And I think that's it for this part of it. In the actual event graph, we need to take that sector, call the constructor building. Actually, we should do it after we possess it because of the ownership part of it. A little bit tidier. And castle. Okay, let's see what happens there. So one thing I'm not certain of is if we're initializing the sector with the right epoch level. Without the correct epoch level, we're not gonna be able to see anything. issue with the function library. Don't think I'm using that one anymore. So just trying to verify that the sectors have an epoch, and they don't appear to, or they don't say what they are. So a sector, no, it doesn't have any epoch here. Okay, so we need a effective tech level. Should come from the island. Print some text, and we can print that'll be the type. A bit more difficult to convert it than using a pen string, but that's what we've got. Yeah, so the epoch is none in those cases for some reason. I think maybe we just need to keep the island around as a temporary variable. Given the only place we're actually using it is over here, should be able to just join it up here. See if that makes it better. give us our island. Yep, still seeing epoch none. Okay, maybe I just don't have it set in the data table. Yeah, I don't know why that is, but perhaps it was just the initial values have been lost. I think then it would work from over here, wouldn't it? It seems a bit pointless setting a local variable for it if we don't have to. Yep, okay, so the sector now has the right epoch. So the sector, building. One attach to actor. Castle location. Probably haven't set that in anywhere. So in the castle location, it would be wise just to make sure that our buildings are always slightly bigger, slightly higher up. I think we might be better suited to do that in the sector. I think a lot of them were default values. Yeah, so that's populated them all now. Nope. I'm not really sure what that error is. It's better. So we also need So a castle is created. That means we go into the building construction script. I think what I did on the castle, because the castle is created in this context, we called this event, didn't we? Change the event. Let's be on the building level. So get rid of that. So make sure we call the parent one just in case we do something there, which we're actually going to do. Feel like they're quite what we want. Still referencing T building, even though the castle reference should be the MLM castle. Maybe these just need to be saved and compiled. Nope. That is not a T building. So I'm a bit confused why it keeps telling me that's what it is. Yes, we jumped over to the T building. That's quite irritating. That's perhaps because I've called it something different. So the base class of this is different. I forgot about that. I copied it, but copying it would keep the base class, wouldn't it? I don't know if we can change the base class without redoing it. Okay, so we can open it, file, reparent, pick the right one, go for it. Oh, did I just do the wrong thing completely? I think I did. Yeah, annoying. I've lost all my building stuff now. Can't undo that either. Okay, I picked the wrong sector thing. What we can do is delete the castle. Just get rid of it. And go back into our old buildings. Copy it back in. So we don't want any of the components, we removed all them. Get rid of all that. And that. And we won't do that yet. So again, we'll just get rid of the stuff we know we don't need. And now we'll reparent, and this one, the right one this time. These we should keep part images. No. So the whole purpose of doing it again, doing it properly, was to try and keep these images, but it doesn't look like it kept them. No problem. So for the first pass, we only need the first 4. We did change these. Don't need to do it in the castle. See where we are with that. Not well. Probably because we're building or trying to initialize the wrong actor now. Tile these up. Okay, good. Small amount of progress. Now we just need to give it our flag. So I mean it should be owned by the right player controller already, so should be able to get that character. Just change that to own a character. Let's see if we actually have to rep it. Let's try it that way instead. So maybe it's this bit here we don't have an owner on begin play, although when we initialize the building we do. I think maybe that's because it's the sector, isn't it, that we have here. Yeah, so on the begin play we don't seem to have an owner. guess. Nope. It's saying there is no owner. I find it to be a bit odd and somewhat annoying, since we in the sector spawn it here with an owner, which is actually the owner of the actor, which should be the player controller, unless it doesn't have an owner at this point. Let's find out. So we're in the game. So we must have authority when we come through here and be on the server. We possess that sector here, and then we construct the building. See what happens there. Yeah, so the sector says that it has no owner. So let's see if it's any different if we play it. See if that makes any difference to whether it has an owner or not. No. I thought possessing it would have counted for it to be an owner. confused which one's which in this case. Oh, has an owner now. Hi there, Lorraine. Sorry for the delay. I learned by doing, pretty much. That's kind of how I learn things best. So I just kind of jump in and start. It normally means that I spend a lot of time kind of cycling solutions and never really knowing if I'm doing it in the right way or not. But mostly it's by doing, and then there's obviously a fair amount of watching online tutorials and reading the documentation, which documentation may not be great in some regards, but the tutorials are good. I think the hardest thing about the engine is more about how to fit the game that you want to do within the engine. I find that the game that I'm working on perhaps doesn't fit with the engine as good as other games might, and that does make it more difficult. But yeah, so it really depends on how you personally learn things best, whether that's a kind of a learn by doing approach, or watching tutorials, or reading the documentation. Say my personal preference is to actually just jump in and try things. But even like similar to what I was kind of working on here, there's various things where I think it works in some way, and I'm sure that in some times it has worked in that way, but then it kind of doesn't work in that way, which causes me confusion. So I'm certainly by no means anywhere near kind of really consider myself to be good at it yet, I suppose, for want of better words. I think still learning, still trying to figure out how it all works for lots of different scenarios. I don't know if it's got anything to do with when I create it, but I don't want anybody to own it when the sector is spawned. It obviously is the way it is now. That makes sense. Yeah, so okay, I don't know why I have no owner at that point again. But if I set the owner specifically when I possess the sector, it works correctly. So I can work with that in here. I suppose what we can do, go to the right graph. That one. Set the owner in here so we don't have to do it out there. It's marginally better at least. Okay, so can drop that. So now we know our owner is going to be our player controller, as it should be. That should work. Look, see if we're getting any errors. No, so there's no errors. See if it does say that it's set the flipbook correctly. So the Y is 2. Don't know what that should be. Probably didn't actually want to reset all of those. Suppose we need to determine what the flipbook is being set to. So it should be set to the Caesar, which is there. Let's fail to find flag for, and then the character. Any guesses if it's not displaying it is that it's hiding somewhere. So it's odd that the camera is actually showing correctly in this case, but when I select it, the little camera preview doesn't show anything. But I don't know if the flag should turn up there. What we can do is just make sure that it's actually working correctly. Yeah, so the flag shows up when I do it that way. Oh, of course. Probably the only thing that I'm not doing is actually making it visible. Unless it's already visible. Maybe let's make it replicate. Okay, so it's the lack of replication. So I guess what we can do is either replicate the component or we can replicate the variable that then sets it on all the clients. Replicating the component probably is the easiest approach in this scenario. So we're going to just stop that, make sure it plays in our new window again. Okay, so there's our castle, it's got the flag. Take out some of the text. That one's okay, but we'll not print it to the screen. Need to print it to the screen anymore. We'll assume that we can always find it. I think that's a fair assumption in this scenario. So I think what we will do is take that and add a function. Just means we don't have to do that. All the time. So we'll probably need the player controller a few times. So that's our flag, that's our castle. It's obviously not positioned great, but what we can do to, if we run it, drop down into this place. Move that over there. Nope. Should be able to move the castle. Guess we don't want to do that. That's annoying. There has been occasions where I've been able to modify those values, and it's literally just moved the actor part of it, and everything's been fine. But I guess that's not one of those times. I don't unfortunately know how much hasn't been saved. Let's find out where we are with that. So there's quite a bit here that wasn't done. Should be fine on the castle. And I wonder if one potential solution would be not worry about authority in this context. Is. I guess maybe I had the function here as well. Problem when it crashes, don't really know what has or hasn't been saved. At least in that case I'd saved more of it before I ran it. Sometimes it feels a little bit too easy to crash it. And worst case is when you do get it into a state where it's crashing, it's not always easy to know quite why. Kind of just have to go through. All of the blueprints. there's any errors anywhere. Okay, so I can't see any problems, and we're good. Okay, so what I did change was in the castle. Tried to set the flag component on authorized and not authorized. Let's make it replicate again. So that solves the problem. Yeah, so we'll leave it replicated. Instead of trying to do it any other way. So it's all working, we don't need that one. Don't actually need the owner character because we figured that out. Just need the flags, which we have. Okay, so camera's actually a little bit too centered in this case. Hold on. Looks better, but we need to put appropriate mode in place. So to get this to work, it's going to be easier if we just drop one in and use this as a viewport point. So we can go into the sector construction. Really suppose we have to do a check. If it is none, then we will just simply won't render anything. I'm really keen that it's highlighted all like that. I'm sure I didn't used to do that, but from that we can modify the camera. Because actually we're getting a lot of spam, so maybe that check makes a little bit of sense. So we're just trying to get this viewport to be about where we want it to be in terms of the island being displayed. So about 350. Want the far clip plane to be just something reasonable. The camera's currently 250 out, so I'll have it 500. To give us a slightly better location in terms of our... Nope. Let's try none of those. Okay, so that gives it, doesn't quite reach the top, so we just need to get it so that we have it at the top here. So a little bit trial and error. We've had the other one looking slightly better. In that case it was perspective, so that couldn't have been better. So none of those has cameras, so we couldn't have got them better. And it's unfortunate because in the preview it looks like it fits correctly, but the preview isn't really a good representation of what we're seeing. Okay, it didn't work. Not that it matters. Actually made it smaller. Let's go the other way. I think what we did before, take that one out, it's not helping. We can drop in in the white UI templates. In that background. So at the moment it's really big. Really short as well. Okay, so 350. Okay, so I'm just changing the width value. Think any other seems to pay any real attention. It's not far off kind of where we want it to be. Some more height, I think that's probably where the problem is. More height than we'd expect. Moved it up a bit. A bit awkward to get this camera in the right place. mean, the image is fairly small, so maybe that's just what's gone wrong then. Doesn't look the same obviously as that one. To that one it's got a lot more breaking. I suppose even if we drop it down it doesn't look that great. Must be the quality of the images, so that image just isn't as good as what I get in my game. Hi there, Partly. Thanks. Haven't made as much progress over the weeks as I would have liked, but I guess that's the way it always is. I've got a bit more of the working prototypes done, so I'm kind of transitioning those prototypes over to hopefully something that's going to be more complete. But there's always something new crops up. Like, for example, the quality of the images. Oops, too many. What's that one now? Yeah, absolutely. I think I just made the camera big. That makes no sense. Okay, it's getting there now. So Partly says that his week was fairly straightforward until the AI asked, "What do I do if someone is sitting in the seat I want?" And I guess that broke the AI system you were working on then. Yeah, I do. In some ways, it's kind of, it's not always bad when you kind of get to an issue and you think, everything has to change. It really depends on what kind of, or how difficult that is, but I can see that having to rewrite one's AI system isn't great. Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit I haven't looked at any of the AI stuff yet, so that's going to be a new challenge when I get to it. guess alpha doesn't apply to a sprite. Never mind. It's almost in the place where I want it. I think in this case we can. Before we mess with anything in there, just in case it does it all over again, crashes all over again. Play. It's the sector we want. We can hide it. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It does not work again. Yeah, thought it might crash. Okay, so I think I got it more or less positioned in the place that I want it, even though I can't kind of get it exactly right. I don't like the fact that I have to scale it, but I think that's just the raw image is wrong. So I could just edit the raw image and make it twice as big. Let's see if there's actor hidden in game, so we can, I guess, hide them. Yeah, so I mean that's not quite right anyway at the moment. First sector. 500 to 50. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much where I want everything. The background image is in the right place, I think. So what we could do is move that forwards. Yeah, alpha doesn't seem to work very well in that context. It's either shown or not shown. So sector, we need to make the what we would want to do is just one more thing. When we spawn the sectors, should hide them all. Nope. Yeah, so set actor hidden in game sets the actor, but none of the child stuff. So the whole thing doesn't work. And we've got the default scene root. Yeah, even that doesn't stop it showing up. Hiding the actor at least gives me an indication of where I'm kind of off. But we need to space them out a bit more. So I think that's 500. Maybe that. Oops, way too far. Not sure if there's an easier way of getting this to line up, but I think that's 900 is about where we want it now. So the sprite looks like it's just a little bit off, a little bit too high. That might just be that. No, that doesn't change it. No, but I can tweak all that another time. It's getting a bit tedious now. Its approximate location is right. Just need to move the castle over a bit. Put the castle where it belongs on this particular sector. And then I can work on getting the rest of the bits in. So we can hide that. I guess that's not how I'll hide it. Okay, so it kind of looks about right, and we've got the space for the UI that we'll work on next. So that's going to be where I stop for this evening. Yeah, I guess again a little progress in the right direction. Got a bit more of the kind of core component set up, but they don't really do a lot yet. So hopefully can work on trying to improve the actual logic to kind of the gameplay part. I think the main things that I'm going to try and get done is kind of the map and the transition between the sectors, again what I've had in the prototypes, and then maybe work on some other elements of the gameplay to try and see how those bits will fall into place, particularly the construction of the buildings and the claiming of new sectors. So some new things there, but hopefully that won't be too far in the future. But progress is somewhat painfully slow at the moment, but I guess that's just the way it is. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I shall be back hopefully. I may have some time on Thursday, but if not Thursday, it won't be until Saturday, unfortunately. But we'll try and do what I can in between time and see if I can make some improvements and kind of set things up for the next stream to be a little bit more interesting. But so yeah, thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Bye for now.